So many of us get into manifestation or spirituality because we have a pressing problem that we feel we need to solve. But the problem with this approach, no pun intended, is that it often ends up just creating a series of more problems that we need to go and solve. And so, for instance, let's say we initially see our relationship as being the problem, but then it ends up giving birth to all these new perceived problems, like we feel we have to go and fix our self concepts. And I recognize that there's definitely a part of me, and I'm sure this is true for other people as well, that enjoys solving challenges, that enjoys putting these various puzzle pieces together. But at a certain point, especially if you feel like you're only experiencing problems or frustration, you want to get to the point where you're not focused so much on the problems. And so, a very simple question to ask yourself, if you feel like you're going down that rabbit hole of just endless things to fix, just ask yourself, what is it that I prefer to experience? And it could either be for this particular situation or just in general. And I'll give you an example. So, for years, I was in a very unhappy relationship. And I was doing everything I could to try and fix what I perceived as being this problem. I think it started out with just basic psychology, learning about relationship advice, learning, communication skills, communication strategies. And then I got into manifestation, law of attraction at that time. I listened to an Abraham Hicks meditation on relationships. I got really into like energy and energy healing and trying to send positive energy, Ho'oponopono, all of it. Basically, I was like, yeah, if I just try it from all the angles, something has to work. And little did I know, so much of my energy and my soul power was being drained and was being siphoned into trying to fix this perceived issue. And instead of stepping into my unlimited self, which I think is the true purpose of all of these teachings, instead of stepping into my unlimited self, I was actually making myself smaller and smaller. And I was becoming more and more limited, trying to constantly contort myself to fit into this situation and just to try and make the situation work. And at one point, I was involved in this Facebook group. That was all for women who, like me, were in a relationship where they wanted to fix the relationship. And I believe that I don't think it was called this, but it was something like this, the happy wife. But I think it was called something a little bit more clever than that. But that was the basic idea. But it might as well have been called the unhappy wife because all it was pretty much in this group was women just complaining or venting about the horrible or supposed horrible behavior of their husband or significant other. And then they would ask for advice from other women in the group. And I was mostly just lurking at the time, even though it was a private group. I was still very paranoid about my boyfriend finding out that I was in this group, and certainly, that I would be posting anything about him. And so I was just lurking and reading the advice and trying to learn from it. And then at one point, somebody said, she said, I was in that hole for a long time too. And she said, finally, I just decided to leave the relationship. And she said, now I'm with somebody and there's no problems. And this person treats me with nothing but respect. And he actually, brags about me to all his friends and his family. Because that was kind of the common theme in this group, is in many of these conversations, is that these women felt like they were being disrespected. And yes, I understand it's a two-way street, and it's certainly not just as simple as getting out of the relationship or blaming the other person. But I want to really touch upon the larger message here, that woman's comment really set off a light bulb for me. And I don't know if I consciously put it all together at the time, but the seeds of this realization were starting to form. And I recognized that I was choosing to stay in the situation where I was very unhappy. And and I realized at that point, or at least I realized later, that yeah, I thought that I was doing all this because I just loved him so much. But I recognized that I was actually doing it out of fear. And not just fear of being alone, like I've been a loner most of my life, so I'm pretty used to that. But I was afraid that I would never be able to connect with anybody in the same way that I was able to connect with him. And if you've ever seen the movie Ghost World, it's a great movie. I would definitely recommend it. At least at a certain point in my life, I really liked it. But there's a line in that movie, I can't relate to 99% of humanity. And I used to really identify with that line a lot. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, like I couldn't relate to people, period. And so just to find somebody that I could even connect with was very, very rare. And on top of that, we both had like an odd sense of humor. We were both like super creative and both just very open as well. And so yeah, I really wanted to hang on to it because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to find anything else. And really, when I think about it, it had never really dawned on me that that the possibility existed where I could find somebody where I had that bond and I had that connection and there wasn't the constant fighting and dysfunction. and and I get this is definitely indicative of how I valued myself at that time. And because prior to that, like my relationships were nothing but dysfunctional. And in fact, before I was in this relationship, I had spent the previous 2 years being completely infatuated with somebody who was clearly not reciprocating. And to his credit, he never even indicated that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. But I still kept hoping that maybe one day he would see the light and he would decide I was the one for him. So two whole years of this, just to kind of give you some context. And so it planted a seed in me that rather and try and devote all of my creative energy, and again, just shrinking myself to fit into the situation that wasn't making me happy anyway, that I could choose my own happiness. And yes, the relationship didn't end right then and there. It took a few months, but I have to say that once it did finally end, it's like my whole world like just opened up to me. And again, I want to emphasize that the message here isn't necessarily to leave your relationship if you're in a situation where you're not happy. Obviously, it's a very personal decision and it's not a one size fits all. But the message here is rather than constantly trying to duct tape a situation that is not making you happy, and yeah, this could apply to money, career, anything really, to instead just focus on yourself, focus on I am, focus on that loving presence that's always there for you, no matter what's happening and the forms and the circumstances and the changing thoughts and feelings, and just to put yourself on the pedestal and make yourself and your own happiness your priority. And so yeah, so I recognized that what I preferred was, even if it meant not being in a romantic relationship, at least having people that treated me with respect and really just feeling free, like free to be myself, because I did not feel free at all in that relationship. And and yeah, like I said, it's like once I finally made that decision to choose my own happiness, yeah, it's just like the whole world opened up and all of a sudden I started making friends. And ever since then, I would say all my relationships, romantic and otherwise, like friendships, work related, it's almost completely filled now with people who support me, people who treat me with nothing but respect and kindness, and we have fun. And yeah, I just realized in the past just how much I was settling, and this was true for friendships as well. Like, I had these friends where I felt like literally I was like their last priority, and I would really just go out of my way to try and get together with them. I would constantly, and it would all be on my end, just constantly like texting them and trying to get together. And sometimes, they'd usually go days without responding, and sometimes just not respond at all. And now all of a sudden, like, it's like I quantum leaped into this world where suddenly I had a lot of friends and I had a lot of just valuable connections. And now that I'm putting two and two together, I think I realize that it's when you put yourself, when you put I am at the center of your reality, you step into a state where you need nothing, because I am is unlimited. The divine mind is unlimited. There is no lack in the divine mind. There are no problems to solve in the divine mind. And in the divine mind, there's only perfection. And so once you just step into that state of just being, it's just this pure, unlimited love, and yeah, and where you need nothing and you lack nothing, suddenly people are drawn to you. They're naturally drawn to you. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to contort yourself to try and please them or try and get them to gravitate towards you. It just all happens very beautifully and very organically. And so yes, if you're in a situation where you're grappling with a problem and all your energy is being siphoned into this problem, to ask yourself, what is it that I actually want from the situation, and what is it that I actually want, period. And really just putting the focus back on yourself and putting yourself on the pedestal. And this is not selfish at all. This is actually the opposite of selfish, because when you step into that state where you're just giving everything to yourself, you're giving yourself all the love and appreciation and acknowledgement you've ever wanted. And so then you're suddenly very full and you're no longer depleted, you're full and you're nourished. And then it's very easy to share that with other people as well, until the whole line between giving and receiving just collapses and giving and receiving are one. And so I really encourage that for you. And so with that, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.